Hey, Bill, thank you for having us.
Hi.
Welcome.
So as Jodine mentioned, we are building developer tools to make it easier for every enterprise to have access to personalized safety in the Gen AI applications. And as we've talked to a few business leaders, they're not yet ready to put generative AI in front of their customers because there's still some legal and regulatory uncertainty around AI safety. So we think that AI safety laws and regulations are going to be a massive boost to the use of AI safety tools, but we don't know exactly when they're going to come.
So while we can't control the regulatory landscape, we can devise a preparation strategy to take advantage of this inflection point and scale quickly. So how would you advise us to build that preparation strategy?
And do you know of any similar situations with other technologies where this has also happened?
Yeah, I think the timing of IMARA is perfect because we're starting to see like President Biden's executive order and also the European Union's AI Act that just basically got approved in the last week or so. As we start to see this regulation come into play, a lot of companies are going to be struggling on how to implement them. And so this is the perfect opportunity for you guys to become the thought leaders and the trusted partner around this. And I would encourage you to both be very close to the policymakers and the legislators. They often want input from, the folks who are building these solutions, but at the same time, partner with these organizations that, everybody's going to be looking for solutions. A lot of companies want to do the right thing. They just don't know how to. So become the go-to partner for them. But Reid, you're meeting with President Biden and the team that's putting all of this into place. What do you think?
Well, I'm supposed to hold some of that for a little bit later in this episode, right. But yes, I completely agree with everything you just said, Rana. Let me add a few things. One is the EU, UK, US, and other places will have differential AI applications. And one of the things to think about is which kind of boat will be, most relevant. If most of your customers in the US, then it's kind of the question of what will follow from the EU, the EO, and things like that. I think it's actually pretty unlikely that something specific is going to happen from Congress anytime soon, especially coming up in an election year for doing this. So it's kind of like that. But obviously EU, it's got its whole act that it's kind of underway and trying to do. And even though there's some parallels, which are like kind of scale compute and red teaming and other kinds of things that are part of this, there'll be actually a bunch of kind of unevenness, which will be also part of what will be important for your strategy. Now, to the earlier things, I think in this topic, Ron and I are going to be saying a lot of thought leadership and, kind of shape the market. And so for here, I will say one of the things that is related between the two, because if you're doing the thought leadership in the kind of way that you say, hey, here's what's really important, and then, whether it's government statements, even just inquiries, because one of the things that can happen with industry is, the agency alphabet soup X sends a letter of inquiry, and that itself has some impact. Or, hey, we're doing an investigation, even if there's nothing else for it. And so, which things should be formulating that? If you have that in the thought leadership, it'll affect the market because it might affect some of how people are acting or how people are talking about themselves or what things they advertise as features for what they're doing. And so that's the kind of connection between the thought leadership and the marketing. And then, the other thing I think is, really key is, again, kind of like what's the thing that kind of most matters in your point of view? Because one of the mistakes that sometimes people do is they go, here's the list, and a list essentially is the zero. So it's like the one or two things that is really how you're doing it. And that will also be part of your preparatory strategy, because you're going to be kind of making a prediction about which ways the market forces might be going, or the government, regulation as an intervene or add or a change, and then you want to be there earlier with the thought leadership, establishing that, and that's part of the work of the company. So,
Juan Manuel and Cara, I have a question for you. Like, are there any specific industries that you're going to get started with? And actually, Reid, I want to hear your answer to that question too. Like, what industry do you think they should be focused on?
Yes, we've been focusing on healthcare and education and finance because these are industries that are otherwise very heavily regulated. And so they already have that compliance muscle to apply it to AI safety.
I might index those against one of the ones that are most likely to be fast moving and adoptive. I wish it was medical because I think it would be most beneficial. I'm not sure it will be. It might be financial. The education is, in my experience, is almost certainly like to be one of the slower moving. So I agree with you about the regulatory focus, but I would also, which one is actually likely to jump to try, right, as key. And that, you guys as entrepreneurs in the field will have a better sense of that potentially than I do. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Masters of Scale.
A-I-N-U